Bonjour French 1. Today's lesson is the first in our section 4.2 lessons. It's going to continue with the idea of school, but now we're moving on to, instead of just what you do at school, how you obtain what you need for school outside of class. So school supplies and shopping are actually coming into this section. And along with shopping comes prices, and prices bring numbers, and up until now we've only talked about the numbers 0 through 30. Now, if you don't still have those notes, I highly recommend that you go back and grab those, or if you want to flip over this piece of paper, there's a place for you to fill them in. I'm not going to cover that again in this video. There's a previous video. You can go back to chapter 1 and you can watch the numbers video again if you'd like to get those filled in. But it is nice to have them all in one spot. So if you'd like to fill in the other side of this paper, you can, but you definitely do not have to. So basically, way back in the fall, we learned up through the number 30, which is just the word 30, this word right here. Today we're going beyond that, so you can go ahead and write down the word for 21 is 31. Now you'll notice that it's not literally just the word for 30 and the word for 1. It's actually got the word and in there. This only happens with the ones, as in 31, 41, 51, those. So it's a little bit strange, but the French don't just say 30 and then the number for 1. They say 30 and 1. So 31, again I'm going to pause so you can repeat after me, is 31. Then we get back to normal, just like how English speakers do. For the word 32, it's just the word for 30 and the word for 2, 30 and 2. So the word for 32 is 32. Same thing with 33, the word for 30 and 3, it would be 33. Now I know these aren't on your paper, but I'm going to go ahead and keep counting, and I would suggest that you repeat after me for 34, which is 34, 35, which is 35, 36, which is 36, 37, which is 37, 38, which is 38, 39, which is 39, and then here's where you got to start writing again. The word for 40 is pronounced 40. And just like with 31, when you didn't have just the words for 31, you had 30 and 1. Same thing happens with 41. It's actually 40 and 1, so it's 41. 42, though, is just straight up the word for 40 and the word for 2, 42. Again, I'm going to keep counting for your pronunciation benefit. 43 is 43. 44 is 44. 45 is 45. 46 is 46. 47 is 47. 48 is 48. 49 is 49. And now it's time for you to write again. 50. 50 is 50. Again, as with all the other ones, there is actually the words for 50 and 1 here. So 51 is 51. 52 gets rid of the and, just like the rest of them. The words for 50 and 2 are just 52. Again, counting for you all the way through, 53 is 53. 54 is 54. 55 is 55. 56 is 56. 57 is 57. 58 is 58. 59 is 59, and then we come to the word for 60, which I am scrolling up so you can see on the page now, 60. Again, 61 is not just the word for 60, followed by the word for 1, 60 and 1, 61. 62 is very basic, 62. Keeping counting but not writing them down, 63 is 63. 64 is 64. 65 is 65. 66 is 66, 67 is 67, 68 is 68, 69 is 69, and this is where we need to start talking, and that's with the word for 70. There is not a special word for 70 in the French language. Instead of coming up with an actual new word for the word for 70, something involving the word set, which is the word for 7, like we have in the English language, they actually keep counting from the 60s. So you might recognize this number 10 here as the number 10. 11 is 11. 12 is 12. So when you say your 70s, what you're literally saying, if you were to translate it word for word, are, so you count through the 60s, 68, 69. 70 is actually 60, 10. 71 is 60, 11. 72 is 6012. So it's not just necessary to know your numbers 1 through 9, you actually have to know your teens as well, because in the 70s, they don't have a special word for the word 70. Instead, they use the word for 60 with all of those teen numbers. And again, if you think about it in a mathematical sense and in a strict translation kind of way, it makes sense. 60 and 10 would be 70, 60 and 11 would be 71. But it is something you need to be careful with, and if you don't have those old notes with your numbers for the teens on them, you're definitely going to want to get those taken down so that you can say things like 75, which would be 60-15. So let's go ahead and go through these. 70 is 70. 71 still has the and in it. Notice it's 60 and 11, so 60 et 11. 72 would be the words for 60 and 12, 72. I'm going to keep counting, but of course there's nothing to write down. 73 would be 60 and 13, 73. 74 would be 60 and 14, which is 74. 75 would be 60 and 15, 75. 76 would be 60 and 16, 76. 77 would be 60 and 17, 77. 78 would be 60 and 18, 78. 79 would be 60 and 19, 79. And then 80 actually has a special word. The special word for 80 is 80. And if you think about it, 4 is 4 and 20 is, well, 20 is 20. 4 20s is literally what that's saying. And if you think about it, if you have 4 sets of 20 or 4 times 20, it makes 80. Now, you don't want to go about, memorizing all these math facts and having to think through your math every time you want to count to 80 in French. But if you want to know where it comes from, 80 literally means 4 20s. But if it were me, I just memorize the word for 80 is 80. Notice that the only time 80 has an S on it is with the original word for 80, 81, 82. The S is gone on all of those 20s, so be careful on that. This is also the first time where you don't see the word and before the word one, so they switch that up on you as well. French numbers are a little tricky. So again, the word for 80 is 80. 81 is 81. 82 is 82. 83 is 83. 84 is 84. 85 is 85. 86 is 86. 87 is 87. 88 is 88. 89 is 89. And then once again, we need to have a little talk about 90. Just like how there was not a special word for 70, there is also not a special word for the word 90. Instead, they use the word for 80 and they count through the teens. So just like how 70 was the word for 60s and then the teens, 90 is the word for 80, which is 80, and then your teens. So 90 literally translates to 80-10, which is 90. Again, the and is missing before the 1 from 80 on. So for 91, it's actually the words for 80 and 11, 91. For 92, it's the words for 80 and 12, 92. For 83, it's 80 and, or sorry, for 93 rather, it's 80 and 13, 93. For 94, it's 80 and 14, 94. For 95, 80 and 15, 95. For 96, 80 and 16, 96. For 97, the words for 80 and 17, 97. For 98, the words for 80 and 18, 98. And 99, get ready for it, folks, the word for 80 and 19, 99. It's a long number. Now, the nice thing is, after all those long numbers, the word for 100 is pretty easy to remember, cent. It looks like cent, and there's 100 cents in a dollar if it helps you remember it. And then if you need to do anything beyond 100, 101 is just the words for 101, cent un. 102 would be cent deux. 150 would be the words for 150, which would be cent cinquante. 162 would be 162, cent soixante-deux. So you can count all the way through the 100, and then the only other thing I needed to show you is what happens when you get into 200s and 300s. Just like in English, you put the words 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever it is in front of the word for 100. Now, you notice that you didn't have to do that over here with 100. You didn't have to say un cent, 100. They assume that it's 100 if all you say is cent. If all you say is the word for 100, you don't actually have to say the words for 1 and 100. But once you get past the 100 category and you are saying things like 200 or 300, you need to go ahead and put that number in front of it. So 200 would be 200, Notice that there is an S on the hundreds here, but only this time, only in the original, just like how with 80, that was the only time you had the S on 20. 201 would just be the words for 200 and the word for one. So 201. If you wanted to say something like 252, 252, literally the words for 252. If you wanted to say something like 514, it would be the words for 5 and 114. 514. So really with this knowledge, you can count all the way to 999, which is 999. It's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of memorization, but you can do it.